Steve Borthwick has just announced his team for the Calcutta Cup match at Twickenham this weekend as the Six Nations return. So I'm hopping straight on to give you my immediate thoughts, having seen the England team. Leave me yours in the comments down below. Please give the video a thumbs up, and I will be at Twickenham this weekend for this game among the fans, bringing you loads of stuff. So hit subscribe so you don't miss anything. There's the England team then. Firstly, before I go into the actual team, I'll let you digest it if you haven't seen it already. But what is the chat with the Tuesday team announcements? We got a Tuesday team announcement before round 1 against Ireland. And then it was a Thursday for the match against France. And now we're back to a Tuesday again. Is there a leak in the England camp? And the reason the team's coming out early is because they're like, oh, well, the newspapers are going to publish what the team is. We might as well get it out on our own terms. I wonder if that's what's going on. I don't know if it's mind games with Gregor Townsend. I've no idea. All I know is I like it. I like the early team announcement. It's very Rassie Erasmus, but Steve Borthwick's done it enough now. It's becoming his thing too. And as it is, it's a very Steve Borthwick selection. We can say that. Very little has changed. I mean, why would it? England beat France and put in a good performance. Only one change within the 23. It is exactly the same 23 men that played against France. The only change, Ollie Chessum into the starting lineup, George Martin onto the bench. So it's Finn Smith at 10 and Marcus Smith at 15. That continues as you were. No surprises. Let me know what you think. I guess the other selection issues that could have been maybe in Steve Borthwick's consideration would be Luke Cowan-Dickie starting at hooker. There was a lot of people, well, I think a lot of people recognised the value that Jamie George brought from the bench. So not surprised to see him still there. But some people were thinking because Luke Cowan-Dickie's arrows weren't particularly good at line-out time, he was under pressure there. Would it make more sense to have Theo Dan maybe starting or into the matchday squad? Jamie George, as I say, coming in on 99 caps. I'm okay with the selection. And I think actually you have to think about the hooker selection at the same time as thinking about the second row switch that's been made. Now, Ollie Chessum and Jamie George between them sorted out the England line-out issues that they'd had in the previous 50, 60 minutes of the match. France really attacked England, and Scotland will certainly have seen that and will do the same thing. And with George Martin on the field, Maro Itoje was relatively easy to isolate as England's only jumper. And so France were able to put a lot of pressure on Luke Cowan-Dickie's throw. Ollie Chessum's a brilliant line-out forward. Jamie George is a brilliant line-out thrower. Luke Cowan-Dickie offers a lot around the park. His arrows haven't been as good. George Martin offers so much around the park, and with his scrummaging and disrupting the opposition maul, he's incredible at all that. But maybe as a jumper, that's not his strength. And it's interesting. I would liken this to, do you remember those that for the last, until they retired or haven't been picked, Dan Cole and Joe Marler were getting in the England squad. And after that Rugby World Cup semi-final, when England got pumped, when they both went off, after that point, Steve Borthwick never picked Joe Marler and Dan Cole at the same time. He always would start one and have the other on the bench. And I think that was to try and equalise the strength across the 80 minutes, to make sure there was one good scrummaging prop on the field at any given time. And I think that might be what's going on here with the hooker and the jumpers. You've got Luke Cowan-Dickie, not as good a thrower as Jamie George. Let's get our best line-out jumper on then to try and give Luke Cowan-Dickie the best possible target to hit. And equally, when George Martin comes on, maybe for Ollie Chessum, maybe for someone else, he's not quite as good a line-out jumper as Ollie Chessum, so let's get our best thrower with him. And Jamie George will find him. I think that might be what's going on here. I'll be interested to know if you think that theory's got any legs whatsoever, or whether he's just gone, I want Chessum on to start. Simple as that. I mean, the one thing to watch is if Luke Cowan-Dickie, with Ollie Chessum as a target, struggles again at line-out time, his position will be under threat. And equally, I think watch in the first half, one thing I'm going to be watching for is how solid the scrums are, because what you hear time and again is that George Martin gives the tight head prop some proper welly in the scrums. He gives it some real oomph. Brilliant scrummaging lock. And England's scrum has looked pretty solid through November, and so far in the Six Nations, George Martin has been scrummaging. Will Will Stewart look as comfortable with Ollie Chessum behind him? Not to say Ollie Chessum's a bad scrummager, but it's just an interesting one to watch. As for the back row for England, I'm really pleased that Tom Curry's come through, shaken off any niggles, and he's able to take his place in the starting lineup. I thought they went really well. Looking forward to seeing Tom Willis carrying in some heavy traffic. And when you look at matchups in the back row, there are, Tom Curry and Ben Earl will be targeting British and Irish Lions selection. That matchup, Matt Fagerson against Tom Curry, could be whoever comes out on top in that could be the one that gets a spot for the British and Irish Lions. Ben Earl could be fighting for a spot as well against Rory Darge, who has been outstanding. As for the back line, no changes whatsoever, and I'm okay with that. Alex Mitchell and Finn Smith, club combination, looked really good in that second half against France. Wasn't perfect for Finn Smith. Going back and watching the game, he was nervous and made some errors in that first half, but you'd think he'd be more confident going into this game. Scotland, I'm sure, are going to target him. Darge, as I said, is just going to be on a one-man mission to get to Finn Smith and close down his space. Henry Slade and Ollie Lawrence, I like the combination they've got. Some people have criticised it. I don't see who else there is. I mean, Fraser Dingwall's in the squad, Oscar Beard's in the squad. They're not as good as Henry Slade. So I like the combination based on the options that England have. Ollie Slightholme continues on the wing with Caden Murley still out. It'll be interesting to see what happens when Murley's back. And I've guessed with Marcus Smith at fullback, are Scotland going to put some bombs up and send Blair Kinghorn and Duhan van der Merwe after the England back three, in particular Marcus Smith? It's not the way Scotland tend to do things. And again, one of the reasons I think I'm okay with the selection of Marcus Smith at 15 again is because Scotland, like France, tend to kick longer. And actually, that might, if they try and go for aerial bombs, I wonder if that would just play into England's strength, because they're actually quite good there. Be interesting. There were some people thinking Stewart might have been picked on the wing or on the bench, but Elliot Daly continues there. I mean, he can play 13, he can play wing, he can play fullback. On the bench, Chandler Cunningham South continues. He didn't get used. Harry Randall continues. He didn't get used last time. It's going to be interesting to see how Steve Borthwick uses his bench. He's got talent there. How and when he uses them, because I honestly think this game is going down to the last 20 minutes. There's some people making silly comments just because England beat France and Ireland dominated Scotland. There's people making wild comments about England should definitely win this game. It'll be comfortable, and if it's not comfortable, then they've made an error. It's Scotland. It's Scotland in the Calcutta Cup. They've won the last 4. They've got England's number. They'll have every bit of confidence, even without Sione Tuipulotu. And the Scotland team, the good news is, it's positive for them, and we haven't got confirmation of this until later this week when Gregor Townsend names his team, but Darcy Graham and Finn Russell, word is, they're available. I don't even know if Kyle Steyn might be available as well to come into the 23-man squad. So Scotland could be, without Sione Tuipulotu, but other than that, at near full strength. And that pack, in particular, the back row, exceptional. And I haven't really changed my thoughts that I did on a video that I put up the other day, where if you were doing a combined team based on who you think is going to be selected, and now we know who's selected for England, very, very even. I give Scotland the edge in the back line, and I give England the edge in the pack. I think it could come down to the bench, where I think England do have an edge, but it's one thing actually having an advantage and another thing pressing it home, because, well, as we saw, I thought France had an edge and they didn't make it count. It all comes down to how well you play. I am pretty happy with Steve Borthwick's selection. I didn't expect to see much else, and we'll see how England go. I'm still thinking at this point, it's going to go right down to the last 10-15 minutes. I'm going to say England are going to break the run that Scotland are on. I could well see Scotland stretching it to 5 straight wins, but England by less than a score. England by 4. But it's going to be tight and it's going to be tense. I'll be there for it, and I'll be bringing you stuff on the channel across the weekend. Hit subscribe. See you on the next one.